excited. We have Dr. Pang from the Department of Health here today, and we will be hearing from him mostly for most of this meeting. But I did want to start off by sharing our numbers because that is why we are having a meeting about Delta today. Our numbers are very, very high. So let's start with that. We will go to the Hawai'i site, which shows that our state positivity rate is now at 5.5%. Of course, these numbers are 48 hours old. Our new cases for today that are being reported are 485. Of course, we had the big number yesterday of 622. That was a accumulation of other days that did not get reported because of a data error at the Department of Health. But what's being reported for today, which would be from 2 days ago, is 485. And then Maui County, our positivity rate has gone up to 4.5%. Our new cases are 42. And then our average daily cases, which is what we really want to pay attention to, is at 24. For the state, our average daily cases are now at 263. So we're on an upward trend, and that is why we wanted to bring in Dr. Pang today. And I will just go ahead and move straight ahead to him because that's who you guys are hopefully wanting to hear from. Dr. Pang from the Department of Health is going to talk to us about the Delta variant. Let's welcome Dr. Pang.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to, I don't know how long you have for these sessions, but I told my wife I'll be back in about an hour, 15 minutes at the most. So she has these chores. All right. So listen, we are talking about the Delta variant. All right. In fact, when was the last time Maui saw normal COVID? My goodness, that must have been like 4 or 5 months ago. Because after normal COVID, the first variant that came in was the LA variant. Okay, I mean, we've been living in variant land for a while. And the LA variant, no, sorry, it wasn't LA, California variant. That's close. There were 2 California variants, okay, 1429 and 1427. And lo and behold, we had a lot of California variant. It was more transmissible, about 50% more transmissible, probably not more severe. And they wondered if it could dodge the immunity afforded by a previous normal infection or a vaccine. So when you talk about immunity, antibodies and all that, there's 2 forms. You have natural immunity because you already got the infection. Well, I'm sorry, there's 2 kinds of acquired. You get the natural infection and then you're immune, maybe 6 months, maybe your lifetime, I don't know. Or you get the vaccine, that's acquired. Don't forget, basically there's yet another overall kind of immunity called innate. For example, birds, they don't get COVID. They're innately immune. But people, maybe there's some people innately immune to COVID. Actually, we thought maybe, but mostly not. You get all the people, you kind of blast them with COVID and they kind of get COVID, okay? They might not get real sick, but they get COVID. Okay, so that was the issue, that we had all these variants coming in. And after the LA variant, 1429, that's what Maui had, but Oahu had 1427. So it wasn't so well mixed, and Kauai had nothing, variant. Big Island had no variant. And then it kind of calmed down, and lo and behold, out of the blue, the UK variant came in, okay? And that one, it came in about 10% on Oahu, maybe 7 or 8% on Maui. And we thought it would dominate us because it sure did on the mainland. There was a time that New York and Florida was, yes, UK variant. And Florida had a horrible time of it. And then out of the blue, we heard that there was a very bad variant called the Brazilian variant. It was called P1. They gave it a Greek letter way later, alpha, beta, gamma. It was given alpha, beta, gamma. It was given gamma. So alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So it was given gamma. And Maui was the only county that had Brazilian variant, and it rose to about 30% on Maui. Well, what's interesting about the Brazilian variant? Well, that one spread even more. instead of 50% spreading, it spread about twofold or 200%. Okay. So if the normal COVID would infect, I don't know, 5 people over 10 days, it would infect twice as much, 10 people over 10 days. And then the next 10 days, 10 would double, twice as much. So 10 would, if 5 went to 10, 10 goes to 20, etc. You get it, right? Exponential. So that was the Brazilian variant. We were horrified because nobody knew if it was going to be more severe, but it certainly dodged antibody. How do you know? Because in Brazil, they didn't have vaccine. They were kind of wiped out by normal COVID, especially the city of Manaus, population, in the metro area, about, 1.5 million. They all got normal COVID. And the president said, well, you all got natural immunity. Acquired immunity. You got infected. But it turned out like 80% of them got the variant. So if the variant dodged the natural infection immunity, it surely could dodge the immunity prepared by vaccines, because we prepared it against normal COVID. Okay, for some oddball reason, the variant didn't climb above 30%. Now, in other countries, Canada, holy cow, Western Canada, Washington State, Oregon, it just spread. Well, wait a minute. British Columbia, Western Canada, that's Brazil? No, it's not. But it came in through the international jet set ski guys. The Brazilians, they surf, they ski, they'll go all over. And in fact, the Brazilian variant was identified in Japan, because there's a lot of Brazil-Japanese traffic, the second, third generations, right? So it was picked up outside. It had spread and dominated Western Canada. It spread to Eastern Canada. And we thought, oh my God, we're going to get it here, because a lot of Canadian tourists from Western Canada were coming in. And it was so bad. I think there was kind of it's almost like a sad joke story. It got very bad. The Canadians were so upset. They were locking down. They were trying to vaccinate against it, but they didn't have a lot of vaccine in those days. And they said, why bother? The natural infection doesn't protect against P1, the variant, so why do it? So the most protected group in Western Canada was the ice hockey team, okay? And the coaching staff, they all got like 90% got P1. And they said, you see what we're up against? In the name of sports, we couldn't protect these guys. Okay, and so we were all set to be devastated. High transmission, unknown severity, and certainly can dodge the vaccine. Meanwhile, we get a report out of Brazil, dominated by the P1 variant now. They said that a strange thing, in very young children, age less than 3, the death rate is 12-fold normal COVID. So everyone thought, oh, that's the Brazilians. But the CDC went down to help them, and they said it is true. It's kind of rare to have a death in a child, but 10 or 12-fold? And they said, and is it rising or what? If it varies to do that, how do you know in 1 month it's not going to be 50-fold? Nobody knows. And then things kind of quieted down. And simultaneously was the release of the Delta variant. The Delta variant came out of India. And India, if you recall, was pretty well okay. They were celebrating, they had licked COVID. There were articles in CNN about how the slum of India beat back COVID. And nobody knew why. Is it because they get all these other infections and there was cross immunity? Nobody knows why. And then it started to spike. It got out of control. So initially, the Indians were horrified. And they're very smart. They knew what to look for. So they calculated the increase in when you talk about variant, I'm going to ask you transmission, increase or decrease, severity, if you get infected, are you more severe or not? Yeah. Increase or decrease, yeah. And then can you dodge the antibodies, the immunity that we gave you through the vaccine or natural infection? Okay. So the Indians saw it spread, and they calculated the increase of the spread compared to normal COVID, which we don't have anymore. but some places still had normal COVID. India, when it first started, they said it could be anywhere from 40% more transmissible to fourfold, 400%. Now, what is this, some fluke? So the bigger cities, Delhi and I think Bombay, they said it's 400-fold, 4 times the spread transmission. All the other smaller cities, like 2 million, Lucknow, I mean, these are small cities in India. They said, no, 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 it's only 50% more. And so they looked at this carefully and they said, you know what? In those big, big cities that had this high transmission, like fire, it was those, it ran with the political season, the campaign season. And in India, when they campaign, they get together for days. They prepare meals, eat together, chant, shout, sing, days and days and days. And they said that kind of behavior, no wonder it spread. Okay. Now, you remember, the spread factor is always based on your social, the way you live. So when the normal COVID first came to New York, and they had no idea, mask, hand washing. Well, let's guess, maybe it's hand washing. No vaccine, no distancing, no idea. So they watched it spread in New York. And in the nursing homes of New York, it spread sixfold. So every 10 days, it's multiplying sixfold. Okay. In other areas of New York, it was twofold because the nursing homes really cramped and everyone's in each other's face. But when they figured out how to do mitigation, mask, distancing, hand washing, and you didn't have the vaccine, you just mitigated, it's about 1.2. So in every cycle, when I get through spreading, and I'll spread it for maybe 8 days, how's that, 8 days? I spread it to 1.2 other people with mitigation, masking, distance, hand washing, okay? Without that, I think I'd spread it to 2 people. And then 2 would go to 4, the next 8 days, 4 to 8, 16, 32. It's what do you call exponential with a factor of 2. In the nursing homes, it was exponential with a factor of 6. You just blink and the whole nursing home is infected. You can mitigate if you want in the nursing home. Maybe you can drive it down to 2 or 3. But that was the battle. So these things certainly can spread. But when I tell you increased transmissibility, it's all relative, okay? So of course the Indian cities that was doing campaign and all that shouting and singing and all, of course that spread. Okay, so then it spreads outside of India into Southeast Asia, Vietnam. Vietnam was the first one to say, wait a minute, we got a Vietnamese strain, which is a modified strain of the Indian strain. Oh goodness, I mean, shall we name it? I can't remember, I think they did, okay? Then India itself had a variation on the variation called plus. So there's Delta plus. There's the Vietnamese one, which is Delta, but with the Vietnamese modification. Okay, then we saw very quickly in a matter of 2 weeks, the Delta variant had entered London, LA, and New York. Just, detected coming in. Travelers are returning, New York people, whatever. It came in, okay? And so we watched very carefully the UK, or at least I chose to watch the UK. You can find it on Worldometer. This could be a fascinating study if I could bring this up on window. Technically, Card, if I really mastered this thing, I could go to my window, bring up the data from Worldometer. Shall I try that?
Yeah, you can try to go your browser, your Chrome.
Okay.
Yeah, browser.
But first I got to do shared screen. Now just bear with me. I go to window, okay, and I choose, I got to go browser first. Wait. Yeah. I got to bring it up on the browser. Okay, so let me try to talk about this as I bring it up on the browser. I know you can't see this, but I'm bringing it up. Okay, right, Rona, hang on, coronavirus countries. Okay, hang on. So if you want to watch what Delta has done and is going to do to us, all you got to do is follow the UK. And if you think that's some kind of fluke, you can follow Vietnam. You can follow Thailand now. You can follow Malaysia. You can follow Indonesia. And so that is our future because they had Delta first. Okay. Okay. Now I have it on my screen. I'm coming back to you, Kara.
Okay.
I am going to share the screen. Boy, if this works, I'm going to be a happy man. Oh, look, here we go. There we go. Okay. Now this is,
Oh, we don't see your browser.
I don't see it either.
Yeah.
How come? Okay, give me one more chance. One more chance, because I saw it here,
Yeah.
but I couldn't
Instead of
pull it up.
when you click share screen, instead of window, can you click your browser? What are your options there?
Oh, okay. Wait, hang on. Stop sharing. Hang on. Just one more chance. Instead of share screen,
So
instead of window, I have window, Chrome tab, or entire screen.
Chrome tab. Click on Chrome tab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds reasonable here. Oh, wow. Yeah. There's something good here. Get ready. Whoa. You can see that, right?
There we
Please tell
go.
me.
Yeah. Yep. We can.
Okay. Now listen. This is, people call it worldometer, but it's all, I don't know. I don't know how I type in coronavirus countries, and this is what everyone follows. You see, never mind the blue thing at the top. These are the cases of the UK, okay? And you see on the horizontal scale, it's time. Well, when did the COVID come in? It came in about May 10th. Now, can you see me? I'm rolling my arrow.
Yep.
You actually, okay, look. When the Delta, sorry, first came in, I don't know, it was about, what shall we say, 2000? How's that? 2000,
Sure.
okay? And by July 10th, May, June, July, 2 months, here we are at, oh, I don't know, what shall we call that? 54,000 there, 54,000. So you see it increased 27-fold from 2 to 54,000, okay? So in a matter of 2 months, the Delta went from 3% of the cases to 99% of the cases in 2 months, and it spread 25-fold, 2,000 to 50,000. It's really 27-fold. Okay. And meanwhile, I'm kind of reporting, hey, watch it rise, watch it rise, watch it rise. This, my friends, is our future. But check this. After it peaked, it's kind of dropping. Whoa. You mean it didn't just kept going off the chart? No, it kind of drops. Now, some other countries haven't dropped yet, but I kind of get this feeling after 8 or 9 weeks of it here, it's going to peak and kind of start to fall. So I talked to the mayor. He said, well, how bad could this get? When did Delta come into Maui? It came in about 6 or 7 weeks ago. So what? You got 3 or 4 weeks to it peaking, 10 weeks, yeah? So when it came into Maui, it's just like when it came into the UK, what was Maui's rate? I don't know, about 10. So let's just say we follow the UK, and in 10 weeks, which will be in 3 weeks, we should probably peak around 250 cases a day on Maui, just Maui, and predominantly Delta. Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to get the mayor prepared that when you tell me, hey, Maui had 40 a day, I can tell you Maui's going to have 69 tomorrow, 65.
And Dr. Peng, may I ask a
Say
question?
again?
May I
Sure.
just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
The UK did some interventions that we're not doing. First of all, they didn't have thousands of tourists coming in daily, and they locked down a couple times. So
Yes.
that's a behavioral difference that's going to influence the rate of transmission over time.
Okay.
Correct?
That's a very good question. UK is doing stuff different. They also did this weird vaccination thing.
Right.
Instead of giving everyone 2 doses, they gave them 1 dose. And then back around here, when the thing started to climb, they go, oh my God, we better give them 2 doses. Because it was shown that 1 dose was very, very not good against Delta. Okay, so 3 things going on there in the UK, okay? Now, I don't know. Why do I keep pointing to the UK? Because I also watched the data. Wow, let's see if I can actually do this. I watched the data for Thailand. Okay, Thailand, I have a contact down there who's giving me, now all I gotta do is find Thailand here. I assume you can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, oh gosh, now we gotta find Thailand. This is the hard part because there, we go to Thailand, right? Okay, you're with me, right? Now we
Yep.
come down to there. Look, look. Okay, well, what was Thailand doing? They really weren't locking down until about here. Okay, when they started their Delta, I don't know, it was around here, 2000. Right now, they're not 25-fold the scale, but come on, they're up there, okay? And they haven't peaked. And the drag is a little slower. It's over 3 months, maybe. Fine. But Thailand, they normally have a lot of tourists, but they don't. But Thailand has a lot of visitors from outside Thailand crossing the borders. Their vaccine is not good because the Thai government said, we bought Chinese vaccine and the Chinese say it's not good. And we're not going to give you Pfizer until we finish the Chinese vaccine. The people were really upset. So then they started to give them Pfizer. Okay. So anyway, but you can search many countries and you will see the same shape. So what I'm trying to say is in the next few weeks, I hope it peaks. But like you say, hey, the tourists keep coming in. The tourists keep coming in. Now I'm going to answer one of your questions. You say that all these cases, well, it's certainly in our community. Come on. It's in the hospital. It's in the ER visits. It's in everybody. But it doesn't seem to be in the tourists. That's because the tourists don't get tested.
That's right. Yeah.
As well as I do, no tourist is going to get tested here until they're half dead. They might get tested if they go ER. If they get in a traffic accident and they get to go ER, they'll be tested. And they'll say, oh, you're a tourist. But you know as well as I, Cara and Dana, they don't want to be tested because if they're positive, you ruin their vacation and their family and their contacts. You ruin their vacation, man. So we know full well the tourists brought it in, the tourists continue to bring it in, and they just don't get tested. Okay. Now, so that is the frightening part of transmission. So now we have Delta. So how much more transmissible is it? Well, it could be 400%. It could be 40%. But I think the powers to be told us it was 250% more than normal COVID.
Right.
So, 2.5. Well, okay. Is that with or without mitigation? It's with our current state of mitigation. Well, how's our current state of mitigation? If you go to the US mainland, good God, they don't wear masks, they don't do whatever distancing. They think it's over. Now they know it's not over. And unfortunately, they don't mitigate. In Hawaii, if we continue to mitigate, maybe you can control this hyper transmission. So that's kind of what I want to say about transmission, okay? Now, increased severity. I think it was pretty clear. The UK, they saw it first. They measured the severity. So that means if you get COVID, transmission determines your probability of getting COVID. But if you get COVID, what's your chance of, what is your chance of severity? Severe or dying? Not mild symptoms, severe. The British said it's twice as much as what? It was twice as much as what they saw at the time, which was UK variant. They were full of UK variant, British UK variant. The UK variant is 50% more severe, but it was twice as much or added to that. So it's not, well, frankly, it's like 250%. The British said twice as much. You got to add 50% more because they were baselining it to UK. But I think everyone accepts it's about 2.5-fold more severe than normal COVID. What's normal COVID? Hey, look, I'm good at this. You're watching me change the screen around, right?
Yep.
Okay, watch now. Here, see at the very top? Total COVID cases, about 200 million. Total COVID deaths, 4 million. So the normal COVID deaths is about 2%, right?
Yeah.
Now, Delta is 2.5 that. So it's 5. It's 5%. Okay. So now you have this interesting thing here. Don't overload the hospital. Okay. Protect the hospital. Flatten that curve. Well, the hospital, all they care about is how many severe COVIDs are coming in, right? You can do it two ways or a combination of two. You can have the same death rate, but twice as much transmission, then you got twice as much death. Or you can have a higher transmission and the same death rate. Oh, did I say that already? Anyway, you can have a double the transmission, the same death rate, and it's twice as many deaths. Or you can have the same transmission and twice the death rate and double the death. But we're unlucky. We have 2.5 the transmission and 2.5 the death rate. So 2.5 times 2.5 is about 5 something. So the Delta, it could challenge the hospital with 5 times as many deaths as normal COVID did. Your only hope is to flatten the curve. Can we not have it all in the next week? Can we have it in 2 months? Flatten the curve. I'm sorry, but you can't, because you saw it rise so quickly in the UK. And I think we're about 3 or 4 weeks maybe to the peak. So unfortunately, you're going to get the full brunt of Delta, the full increased transmission with an automatic higher death rate and severe. Yeah. You're going to get it in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
So,
and we're opening schools. Do you see a problem with like school? All of the school kids for the first time since the pandemic are going to be in full face-to-face learning.
okay, so this is a very good point, right? You bring up schools, right? Let's say kids don't get severe, or they get 2.5 times more severe, but the kids weren't severe to begin with. What is the kids going to do? They're going to increase the transmission,
Correct.
right? You remember India in the cities that were doing campaigning? That's kind of like schools. You go increase the transmission. Now, when the kids increase the transmission, can you make sure it just transmits among the kids? But if it goes home to the elderly, oh, now you're talking about making more sick people. And that brings up the third factor. So I'm moving along, right? I did transmission, I did severity. Now, here we go. Are you ready? The ability to dodge immunity. Remember, immunity could be innate, like, birds don't get COVID. That's innate. Humans, I think we all get COVID, fine. Okay, but what about my immunity? Well, maybe I already had normal COVID. In Hawaii, a lot of us didn't have normal COVID. We didn't get that much COVID. So we're banking on the vaccine, okay? So how is the vaccine? Can the Delta variant dodge the vaccine?
So may I ask another question?
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of talk about if you've had the old COVID in the past, it gives you some immunity against the Delta variant. But I've not really been able to find anywhere in the literature that that's actually the case. That it's actually antibody resistant to.
Okay, I agree with you that I couldn't find anything, but people are more fascinated by the vaccine, that can Delta dodge the vaccine? Because a while ago, before we had Delta, they thought the vaccine, at least the Pfizer and Moderna, gave you better immunity than a natural infection, number one. Number two, when you try to look at that question now, the infections that you had, we'll cover this though, but when you say, you're looking at two things, right? The immunity from a natural infection or a vaccine versus Delta. Can you protect against Delta? Turns out, are you ready now? Here is where I'm going to bring up the other slide. Hang on now. Bear with me. I saw, whoa, look at that. Whoa.
So you can stop share, and you can bring up your slideshow that way.
Oh, I did that. I stopped share. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to get back in this. Now I'm going to go to Windows because this is it.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to hit share. Oh, look at that.
It is.
Okay. Now, right before your eyes, I'm going to crop it so that we don't get distracted by that. And we surely don't get distracted by my desk. Okay. All right. Let's get a little bit more precise and technical here. You want to know if the vaccine is good against COVID. Now, since today is Delta Day, when I say COVID, I mean Delta, okay? Uh, well, okay, it's COVID. You notice I took off COVID-19. Come on, why in the world are we putting 2019 on when Delta came in 2021? It's kind of misleading. So I dropped the 19. Then the CDC says, try not to change the nomenclature without our permission. So that means I don't get to put a COVID D for Delta. But my guys are already starting to put in boldface the D and make it red. So this is Delta because we're living in a Delta world. Okay, you want to know if Delta can circumvent the vaccine. On this side, it's vaccine. Yeah. Oh, you can see my arrow, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is how the epidemiologists, or I don't know, people just like to make a 2x2 table. We like to put who's got COVID, who doesn't have COVID, who got vaccinated, who didn't have vaccination. Okay. But before you even put up the table, I'm going to say, can you please define COVID for me? You mean an infection? Do you mean mild symptoms? Or do you mean severe symptoms and death? So I call that ABC. A is severe and death. B is mild symptoms. And C is no symptoms and just transmitting it to other people because you weren't symptomatic. So before I even put up my table, can you please clarify for me what this is? Next, see that vaccine? What vaccine? Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson? Now comes your question. Well, can I just put in natural infection? Yes, you could. You could. Except for one more problem here. When I start putting in vaccine here, let's choose a vaccine, Moderna. Technically, you should tell me, well, when did you get your vaccine? If it's over 5 months old, I'm going to look at old vaccine. That means you got it. I don't mean shelf life. I mean, you got it 5 months ago versus new vaccine within a month. So already you can see, go ahead.
One more question. So when you're
Sure.
looking at what you're calling old vaccine, you're looking from the second dose on?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. How long ago did you get that completed? No, it's not the second. It's second plus 2 weeks.
Second plus 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so me, boy, let's see, man, second plus 2 weeks for me must have been like, I don't know, mid-February or something. So if they said, oh, Pang, your antibodies have dropped off. So I'm going to see if old vaccine, like more than 3 months ago. So you get it, right? You're going to have to break that down because it surely will tease out. So you got the different kinds of vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. You got long ago versus recent vaccine. And also you got different COVIDs, severe, mild symptoms, or no symptoms and transmission. Okay, so now you say, okay, so what was the question? What was the question? If the question is, how about I just put old infection right here, old infection, previous infection. I'm going to say, you mean old, long ago, or the guy get infected with normal COVID 2 months ago? Well, now you have to make a separate table for each one, separate analysis, right? Nobody's going to find normal COVID anymore. It's kind of gone, okay? So there's no recent normal COVID. Oh, well, wow. How about we just get old normal COVID? You go find the guys who got normal COVID infections 5 months ago. You set up this kind of table. Now you have normal COVID infection, old. Now what kind of COVID would you like? Severe, mild symptoms, or asymptomatic transmitter? I don't know. Why are we fussing around with this? We didn't have to do this. In normal COVID, the vaccine had the same pretty good efficacy against all forms of COVID, severe, mild symptoms, but we never did test it against asymptomatic transmission. Okay? But that was kind of like, well, the vaccine working here, working there, working there. But when we put in Delta variant, OMG, now we have some problems. We don't take blame for it until my next slide's set, but that's the hand you're dealt. You dealt with Delta variant. So how are we looking on Delta variant? Friday, there was a report, wasn't there? It gave us A and C. Never mind these formulas yet. It gave us this. Out of the people who had COVID, 75% were vaccinated. So I think, let's just use percentages, right? So for every 100 people who had COVID, there were really 275. But for every 100 people, there was 75% vaccinated and 25 people not vaccinated. This was a horrible study Friday coming out of the CDC in Massachusetts. Okay. Well, wow. Out of the breakthroughs, this is a breakthrough. A is a breakthrough. He got vaccinated fully, and then he got COVID. But these are of the COVIDs. Delta, now Delta. How many were vaccinated? 75%. Doesn't look like the vaccine's too good. Just hold that thought. Tell me about this. What kind of COVID was it? Was it severe? No. Out of all that, there was really more than 100. There was 275 cases, and 75% were vaccinated. Plenty had mild symptoms. Yeah, plenty. And nobody was that sick. So what kind of COVID, Delta COVID, am I putting up here? Symptoms, mild symptoms. Okay. The CDC went on to say that we don't know about the asymptomatic guys. We only tested symptom guys, man. What was this? So there was a town, province, or something, Provinceville or something, in Massachusetts. They had a summer festival, went on for 2 weeks. I don't know how many came to the summer festival, okay? In the end, 600 people sick got tested by the healthcare clinic at the festival. I don't know, maybe 20,000 came, I don't know, okay? But out of the guys who came sick, you know, I don't know how many they tested, but there were 600 with COVID, and 3/4 of them, 75%, have been vaccinated. None of them were that sick, but all of them were kind of sick. Most of them came because they were sick. They didn't say, hey, you come here, you're the contact. They don't know about the asymptomatics, okay? So this is major deal, major breakthrough. Why is it so major? Because 75% of this group have been vaccinated. Why? What was it before? Here's something for you. Before, out of the COVIDs, it was only 3% were vaccinated. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And that's what we've been saying, right? Oh, it's an outbreak of the unvaccinated until Friday. But be very careful, because if you're going to tell me in other people's study, out of all the COVID, it's not 75%, it's 3% vaccinated. Hey, I'm going to say, well, what kind of COVID? If it's severe COVID, hospitalized COVID, it still holds 3 or 5% have been vaccinated. So it still looks pretty good. So against severe Delta, it's pretty good. Against mild Delta, it's pretty bad. Against asymptomatic Delta, which is the ones transmitting, we're not real sure, but it's probably really bad. Why do you think? Because the Singapore people yesterday reported the same damn thing. Out of their cases, oh, can you tell me what cases? I think it's mild and asymptomatic. I think they tested contacts, asymptomatics. They also said 75% have been vaccinated. Like the whole world is telling us mild COVID, mild Delta, asymptomatic Delta that transmits, your vaccine is not too good. Okay, so let's formally say it. And the CDC would not say the vaccine is not good. They would not say it. That's correct. They are correct. They are correct. Nobody says anything about how good a vaccine is, no matter what this ratio A to C is, until you tell me the whole picture. Here it is, B and D. Well, what's the whole picture? It's this. Out of the COVID people, Delta, you pick severe, mild, or asymptomatic COVID infections, Delta, You tell me how many were vaccinated. Everybody knows this. Everybody quotes this. But to calculate the efficacy, the proportion reduced, you need to tell me the same ratio, vaccine and unvaccinated, in the non-COVID people. Okay? And if you can give me this entire set, it's called the odds ratio. OR stands for odds ratio. It's the ratio of odds. What's an odds? Odds is A over C. That's the odds of vaccination in the COVID or Delta positive people. Divided is a ratio of the odds of the same thing, vaccinated, unvaccinated, in the non-Delta people, B over D. You calculate this thing, and it's the odds ratio. You take 1 minus the odds ratio, and it gives you the efficacy. Okay. So is it possible to have a 75%, 25% breakdown like that and still be efficacious? Well, yeah. Let's just put up an odds ratio here. 75, 25. The numerator is 3. Yeah. If I can get the denominator to be 30, how's that? 3 divided by 30 is 10%. That's my odds ratio, 10%. 1 minus that is the efficacy. 1 minus 10%, 90%. So I claim it's pretty good efficacy, 90%. If this thing, B over D, breaks down to be 30, holy cow, 30. That's like, you mean 30 and 1, or 60 and 2, or 180 and 3? That's what I mean. So in the non-COVID people, do you have that kind of vaccine rate? 30 to 1? Now, this is very interesting, isn't it? Because Massachusetts doesn't have a 30 to 1 vaccination rate. But this is a music festival. And do you know the rules of the music festival in Providence, Massachusetts? Didn't they say you don't get in unless you prove you're vaccinated? So your group, you compare it, are the same group who gave you the positives. You know when they found the 600 positives? I don't know how many they tested. They found a bunch of negatives, right? That's your negatives. And I'll bet you a lot of them were vaccinated because they told you, get vaccinated or get tested at the door. Well, if they all got vaccinated, how come in the cases you got 25% unvaccinated? Because they lied, or they were fake vaccine passports, or it's truly breaking through. So you see how tricky this is. So CDC did not want to make a statement about efficacy, that they can go back and find all these guys who tested negative, not all of them, maybe 200 of them, just to get the ratio, and go ask them, so were you vaccinated really or not? And that's how this goes. It's quite fundamental. I think Cara and Dana, you have like a 10-page thing deriving this, showing you why this makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I mean, for just to break it down for us, so even though the vaccine's breaking through a lot, it looks like people should still get the vaccine to prevent severe COVID. Is that right?
Absolutely. There you go. You hit it on the head. And you should even kind of make your language a little funny. As soon as you say, even though the vaccine's breaking through, you're going to say, we're talking about Delta, right? They say, yes, Delta. What form of Delta? Severe death or mild symptoms or asymptomatic transmission? You have to say what form here. Because like you said, I mean, you said exactly, severe and death, working pretty good, don't die. But you know, that guy, Dr. Jha on ABC News from the dean of the Brown Public School, that wasn't honest what he said. He goes, hey, and we looked at the Delta, the breakthroughs in Massachusetts, and none of them were symptomatic. They were all symptomatic. They were mild, okay? Now, they weren't severe. None of them were severe, okay? But yes, get the vaccine so you don't die. But you know what I cannot say anymore? Well, get the vaccine so you don't transmit it. I don't think that's honest, right? Get the vaccine so when you don't transmit it, we can hit herd immunity. I don't think that's honest. Not for Delta. For normal COVID, that was correct. In fact, we probably eradicated normal COVID. We were so hyped up about Delta. As a fallout, you kind of, well, we would have normal COVID. Good. You eradicated normal COVID. There. You did it. You hit herd immunity. There. You happy? You mitigated. You hit herd immunity. We got rid of normal COVID. But now you have Delta. So the other thing, Cara, I used to say, but it looks like it's not going to pan out, get the vaccine so you don't get long COVID. Oh, my goodness. What is long COVID? It's your body's reaction to the COVID infection after you cleared it. Yeah. And it occurs way late. Sometimes it occurs in asymptomatic people about 6 weeks after their asymptomatic infection. How'd you figure out they were infected if they were asymptomatic? Because they were contacts, right? There's a case, I test all the contacts. Hey, you're positive. Oh, okay, I'll go stay at home. But he never gets sick. 6 weeks later, he got these long COVID symptoms: tired, weakness, shortness of breath, stomach cramps, can't sleep. I think there's no question long COVID is a big entity, 30%. I was hoping we could not get infected at all and prevent long COVID. Well, that's not true with the Delta variant and our vaccines. Plenty got infected, mild symptoms. And I'll bet you they didn't study. I bet you a lot of them were asymptomatic. They just didn't get tested at the music festival. So I can no longer make the argument for long COVID. Maybe it protects long COVID, but I just don't feel right saying, well, it's going to. I don't even feel right to say, well, it's unknown. I think it's not too good. Okay. So it doesn't stop transmission. Oh, by the way. Oh, the ugly thing yesterday when they gave us the news about all these guys breaking through and not transmission. It is true. They cannot calculate the efficacy till they get this part. But I can tell you, go ahead, get this. I don't think the efficacy is going to be so good. Furthermore, the guys who are positive with COVID, maybe the vaccinated guys, maybe it tempered it. It drove the number down so they weren't carrying so much. I mean, isn't that good? Sometimes a vaccine, it doesn't cure your disease, but it sure knocks the heck out of it. So you have low numbers. That was not true. They actually said that the vaccinated guys who got COVID and the unvaccinated guys who got COVID, A and C, they carried the same amount in their nasal pharynx. It didn't even attenuate the amount. Oh, now that's not good. Okay. You didn't even tweak it down. So that's why they said the vaccine, it didn't even control the mild guys, the transmission and the level.
And that's why we're being told to vaccinate and mask right now, right?
That's right. So. There you go. Okay, vaccinate, mask, and distance. And they said that these two guys, equal amount, yeah? It was 1,000-fold more than the corresponding time of illness of the normal COVID. Oh my God. I mean, not only are they equal, vaccine didn't do anything, but this is highly transmissible. Now, 1,000 amount.
So Dr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another question, because you read about and learn about vaccine mask. And then they say in indoor settings primarily, but nobody really addresses the issue in outdoor settings. So what are we
That's
looking at?
Correct.
And
the reason,
if I could ask a question also, because we've been on for a while, and I think we need to get to this, and that is, what are the implications of this for the fact that we're not testing travelers who come in to the state and say, I've been vaccinated? You know, we don't even know whether that's true, but even assuming that's true, is that still enough? Or should we be thinking that maybe it's not enough for people to come in and just say they're vaccinated if they don't have also a recent test result?
Okay, Sarah, as of before yesterday, Thursday, yesterday was Friday, before people said, well, I think it's enough. If they truly got vaccinated, let's say they don't lie, right? But then the CDC Thursday said, oh, I don't think it's enough, but we don't want to share the data till Friday. Once they share the data, so somebody is truly vaccinated, but Delta, so he's carrying it in high levels. Okay, we didn't finish calculating efficacy. Fine. Efficacy is relative. So you knocked it down from 900 people to 300 people, but they're carrying it. So they are bringing it in, okay? Now, we just talked about Delta, right? You ain't seen nothing yet. There's another variant out there in Peru called Lambda. You're going to ask, we should ask the same question, vaccine efficacy against Lambda. So that stuff coming in, showing your vaccine card, it doesn't do anything. You're bringing it in and then spreading it to us, right? The only fallback position is let's hope nobody can die. Okay.
Except
At least
we know that people can die because the majority, I mean, we barely have 60% of people in the state vaccinated.
Oh yeah. No, I meant the vaccinated guys. So
Okay.
yeah, the rest of you get vaccinated because it's still good against death. Now, so wait, somebody help me. I somehow
Can you go
What?
to stop share?
I see you.
Yeah,
Okay, we're back.
Did you see stop share?
Okay.
Share?
All right, yeah. I'll stop share. Okay. There, okay. Okay. I bet you never talked so much over one simple slide. Okay. Now, I want you to fuss around. You can fuss around with that 2x2 table I gave you, yeah? Put up some hypothetical values for B and D. Calculate the odds ratio. Remember, the smaller it is, the bigger the efficacy. So show me, we can still have great efficacy with that kind of breakthrough. 3-to-1 breakthrough. Ooh. Okay. And what you get, right? Just to be familiar, right? Okay.
Well,
Now, listen.
So if
Go
we're
ahead.
using that calculation, we have to know information like how is it impacting kids? How is the Delta variant, if we're trying to figure out how dangerous it is it affecting kids differently than the original COVID?
Could we just
Okay.
could we get back to Sarah's question for just a minute so that we can?
Yes, I remember that. Okay, Sarah, look, right now we know so little bit about the Delta. Hey, come on, it's only been here 2 months, right? But these are legitimate questions. But you can make statements about extremes, things like, hey, Sarah, go mask in your house if you got, I don't know, 5 or 10 unrelated people. Well, what about a little bit on the lanai? I don't know. I feel okay. I don't mind saying, Sarah, can you not drive 80 miles an hour in a 30 miles an hour zone? Okay, how about 40 miles an hour? Well, it's against the law, but Sarah, I don't know that. So we can know the extreme things. You better mask, Sarah, if you got more than 5 people unrelated in a small unit. But we'll get back to your question because there's something even more disgusting that was released yesterday. Okay, we just began to touch on the bizarre things. Okay, Sarah, so all we can do is state extreme things. Get the math. You know what, also, you remember when they told us for normal COVID? Oh, it's not so much hands, it's mostly breathing. When the Delta variant is putting out 1,000-fold the amount, I think it's hands too. Washing your hands, touching your face. So as soon as you see Delta, I'm going to say, no, that was old data for the normal COVID. No, we're in a new world here. Oh, by the way, don't forget, there was a Delta Plus. How many Delta Pluses have come into, I think, Maui? 19. Now, not enough to take, but there's a variant of the variant here. I don't know what that means. But all this is driving me to the bigger talk we'll get to soon. Okay, the schools. I have no idea how much stuff is going to be effective, knowing that vaccine doesn't stop transmission. I have no idea how sick the kids might get with Delta. Delta makes people sicker, but the kids might be so low, it's just a little blip, okay? All we can do is promise to watch carefully, test. I guess we promote vaccine not for the kid's sake, if the kid's not going to die, but so he doesn't transmit it to grandma who maybe didn't get vaccinated. I don't know. So on Monday, we start calling back all the elderly, first, greater than 75, to say, how about we get vaccinated? We will do a home visit if need be. We'll go to their home. And they're going to say, I told you I didn't want one. And I'm going to say, no, that was normal COVID. This is Delta. Let's talk a little bit about Delta, the increased severity. And it will find you. It's so transmissible. So the Surgeon General said, Delta, you're either going to get Delta or you're going to get vaccinated. He was wrong, see? No, he was wrong. You still get Delta. He was wrong. You still get Delta. He meant you're either going to die from Delta or get vaccinated. It will find you.
So it's the DOH working with local schools right now. Do you guys go into schools, or are you familiar with their setups?
Yes, they're identifying point of people for the schools, but it is for the government schools. What about the non-government schools? Oh, let's just hope they follow the government. I don't think so. It was called the Independent School Council, and they said, we agree. We're all going to do the same thing for the young kids. We're all going to mask or not mask. Fine. 75% said they're all going to mask. 25%, we're all not going to mask. So I brought this up with the government, DOH, DOE. They go, oh yeah, that's those independent schools. Let's hope they follow along. And I'm going to spend all my time with the independent schools because hoping they follow along is not. So rather than go in and say, hey, you guys got to kind of fix this. I'm going to wait for outbreaks, diagnose it quick, and then go in and say, oh, hey, you guys causing an outbreak. Let's see your practices. Now, I don't think you can change this, so let's plan. You know what happened? You remember before all the vaccine and all that stuff? We saw outbreaks, right? And what did the Department of Health say? Well, when you sit down and look for it and analyze it over 5 days, it wasn't from the school, right? All the elementary schools were doing joint soccer practice, and it was from the practice and the coach, and it spread to the schools. It spread to the schools, not from the schools. I said, yeah. You figure that in hindsight after 5 days, but by then the school had closed. Everyone panicked. You cannot diagnose who gave what on a dime. People are going to freak out. I share the view of Miskovich. Miskovich said publicly on television like 3 weeks ago, before things got this bad, can we just have a little pause of 2 or 3 weeks? We're right at the peak of our peak. And while it's one of your questions, I am answering your questions. I read them. Are we going to do new mitigation things? I'll be happy just to not do new opening things. I'll be like the schools. Come on.
Yeah, Dr. Lee Altenberg commented on the graph and said in the UK, the epidemiologist attributed the major drop in cases that happened so quickly to them shutting down schools. So they'd been shutting down schools. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lee. I thought maybe they found the magic
Dr.
bullet.
Peng, can I ask, what do you feel about the distancing going from 6 feet down to 3 feet? In schools.
That's even worse.
And then are schools going to be testing? Because I think one of the concerns that we've had is that we didn't have testing in schools before, so it wasn't provable that transmission was occurring.
All right. We are contracting for schools to be testing, but every time we contract, guess what? We hire through an employment agency and they can't find the people, okay? So it's one thing to say, oh, we're going to contract. Really? Who? Okay. And they're going to contract once a week for testing. I think you should be doing twice a week. When this thing goes, it goes, okay? Now, when you get the testing, here I am trying to test to find all positive and draw the link. Oh, when you do that testing, Dr. Payne, can you tell us if they were vaccinated or not? No, they're kids. They weren't vaccinated. Oh, can you tell us if their adult contacts were vaccinated? No, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Okay. And when you find out from the contacts if they were vaccinated, can you tell me the date and the kind of vaccine? Oh, can you not bother us. I'm trying to track the kids. If you cannot give me support to do it and telling me to do it, it would be nice, yeah, to find out if the infection is not vaccinated, he ain't vaccinated, but if it's associated with a family who had been vaccinated or not. And you know what? You saw that 2x2 table I showed you? Can you tell me that in the controls, the kids who you tested who are negative, can you find out if their contacts were vaccinated? That's the negative part, right? I'm sorry, no, I can't. Well, isn't that important to do? Yes, but now I'm busy because you guys went and opened the damn school, okay? So
another question is, we've decreased the number of contact tracers, coincidental with the rise of Delta and the opening of the schools. Is there a plan to increase the number of contact tracers so we can access the information that you need to know?
Now, that's a very interesting question, right? How should we do that? Should we put out and say, come on, contact trace? Nobody's volunteering to contact trace, okay? It's stressful.
I am.
Okay, good. Look, when you do it, so it's not voluntary, do it through Ultra so we can pay you, right? But the ones we hired 3 or 4. They quit in 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks. It was so stressful. Why? Not because we had more cases, because people said, hey, it's over. I'm not going to quarantine. It's over. You know, you meet an angry public. That's no fun. So check this. Hey, Dana, I had to call back my daughter who was doing the shot clinic. She's living in the mainland. She can be a distance contact tracer. It's that bad. I'm calling out-of-state people to contact trace. Okay.
Great, I'm waiting to help.
Yeah, I'll do it if I can do it from home.
No. Yeah, but make sure you're paid through Ultras. This is not like, oh, let's get this done on the cheap.
I don't need to be paid. Yeah, I don't need to be paid, but if I can do it from home, I'll volunteer.
Okay, but first we work in teams, right? But you know what? The case number is rising so high, we have to prioritize who gets the intent contact tracing, right? It's the guys who die, because you want to make sure that the efficacy holds for severe. It's the schools, because, hey, we could close schools too if you can make your case, right? Technically, come on, guys, we don't have to make the case. Just don't open the school. But no, we have to do that. And then, of course, it's travelers, if they're generous enough to be tested here, because we could ruin their vacation, right?
Do we know what's happening, whether travelers are getting sick enough while they're here to seek hospitalization here? Do we have any way of knowing how many we do?
Yes, we do, because the travelers hated to be tested, but some of them got sick as dogs. So they went in and we picked them off at the ER, okay? Now, that's kind of rare. They tough it out. They don't want their vacation ruined, and it's not them, it's their family, right? Sometimes the travelers got a burn or a cut that had to be sewn. They get tested so you don't infect the hospital. Uh-oh, here's a positive guy. So it's sad, but the travelers will avoid anything to be tested. A bad cut, I think you should go in. No, because they're going to test me. Oh, God. So the travelers.
So we really have no way of knowing how many cases of Delta are coming in through vaccinated travelers. Is that right?
Yes, we do. Dana, or Cara, if we just ran the departure study, but instead of detecting COVID, we're detecting Delta. It's too late to find it in the travelers as they depart, because they could have gotten it here, right? So you will use it before it comes in. So what's the next variant? Lambda. Wait a minute. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Lambda is the 11th Greek letter. There's 6 variants, unnamed and unspoken, that we haven't monitored for. I suggest we do a departure study, get one sample, run it, the entire sequence. You can test from one sample, for all possible variants to watch it come in. Or would you like it to spread like this and say, oh, it's here? By the time you see it in the community, forget it, man. Forget it, okay? All right.
I have a teacher here who said she was vaccinated about 6 months ago, and she's wanting to know if her vaccine will protect her enough. Should she be worried about it?
Unknown, because there's two ways to evaluate protection of a vaccine. The laboratory marker, the antibody, which you think is protective, and then the true challenge. And that will show up as the efficacy on the breakthroughs. And then you're going to tell the teacher, protected from what? Death, mild symptoms, or just asymptomatic carriage? Remember, if there's anything you learned today, it's this different kinds of presentation of Delta, and there's different definitions of vaccine. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson, long ago vaccinated, recent vaccinated.
And so
we got
what worries me about being concerned about the mild infection versus severe is that with mild infection, there still could be long haul.
Yes. I mean, that worried me. If you had no infection, then there's no way to be long haul. But there's a big study out of UW, and they showed that a lot of people who had COVID were asymptomatic. There were contacts. A lot of them got long haul.
Yeah, I think it's about 30%.
Yeah, it's kind of, and it goes across the ages too.
Yeah.
So I wish, I wish we had a vaccine to prevent all forms of infection so we didn't get long haul. I wish we had not the Delta variant, but too bad. Okay, now, I answered many a question, but I want to get to the general presentation because I think it's going to add a lot. I can already see it in your eyes, like, not I'm bored, but how is this going to end? Okay, are you ready? Now, I am going to, oh gosh, now, Kara, you got two choices. You can play my video on your screen, or I can play, not my video, my PowerPoint on your screen, which I sent to you.
Yeah.
Or you want to do that? Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
6 slides, okay. This is the PowerPoint of 1, this one, but there's a new PowerPoint of 6. While Kara brings this up, if you can't do it, Kara, I can try to do it, but you try it first. There was another article published on Friday. It was published in a journal, Nature, which is a very good journal. I never published in Nature. And it was published by the Austrians, and I think backed up by the Germans. And what they said, Kara, you're trying to bring this up, right?
Oh, is this the right one?
They said that when they look at, yes, this is it.
Okay.
Good, this is it. So when I say advance it, you have to advance it for me, Kara, because you brought this up. Okay. So what they said, now don't read this, don't be distracted. They said there is no way you're going to ever control COVID in all its variants by a vaccine, okay? You must add mitigation, and you must add mitigation well. And they said, well, why not? Why can't you control COVID with a vaccine? Because there are too many gaps and pukas. Some guys, if we all got vaccinated well, we could eradicate normal COVID and over. But no, some people had to dawdle. They dawdled and didn't get vaccinated. Some guys only got 1 shot. Some guys like me got vaccinated, but by the time my protection dropped, maybe in 6 months, there was still COVID around. Oh my. So if you're not going to do it well, don't bother doing it, or stand by with something you can do well, like mitigation and masking. That's their position. My position is a little more pessimistic. You're not going to do it well, stand by with mitigation, but do you really think you can mitigate well? Of course not. So you have 2 poorly performed practices, neither of which you could do well. So how are you going to do this? So here we go. Why do we get the variants? Why do we have these variants? Here it is. So this is something I remember long ago. Lucy, she's going around the neighborhood and she's going to all the kids, cough. And they cough and she stomps on it. Stomp, 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 okay? And of course she charges them. But all right, now please cough. Charlie Brown coughs, she stomps. Most germs are able to build up a defense against various drugs used on them. That's what makes my system so good. No germ has ever been able to build up a defense against being stepped on. And everyone laughs. Really think it's that funny? Okay. I will substitute resistance against drugs. I will substitute vaccine, antibody by vaccine, chemicals, because there is the anti-vaxxers who said you should have used ivermectin, you should have used chloroquine. You don't think you're going to develop resistance against the chemicals? We will discuss that. How about, here's a good defense, boxing in COVID. Find your cases, test widely, isolate, quarantine, and then contact trace. There it is, boxing in COVID. That's an intervention. Are you going to, develop a resistance against boxing in COVID? Of course you are. For every case we know by boxing in COVID, there's 3 or 4 out there that we don't know of. In LA, they showed for every case you knew in the peak, there were 44 that you didn't know of. Boxing in COVID is something you can develop a resistance to. But on the other side of the coin, nothing can develop resistance to being stepped on. Really? Okay, well, that's mitigation. So I want you to vaccinate. It will develop resistance, and then you will mitigate mask, hand washing, and distancing. Is that true? Nothing develops resistance against being stepped on. Now CDC tells us there's tons of it when it breaks through a vaccine, 1,000-fold. And oh, by the way, it says measles, communicable as chickenpox, mumps, and measles. Measles is airborne, my friend. It's airborne. Now, really, you think stomping on a germ kills all the germs when it's airborne? No. Okay, next slide, please. So why do we say this? Where do resistance come from? So resistant microbes, virus, bacteria, parasite, myfield's parasites, malaria, resistance emerge and then it spreads. How does it emerge? There's 2 forms of emergence. One is spontaneous mutation, just dumb luck, it made a mutant. And they occur when the gene tries to replicate. When you replicate yourself, there's a big chance for boo-boo. How many boo-boos occur naturally? 1 out of 10 to the 8th, 1 out of 100 million. I think that's pretty well accepted. So when you replicate the genes, 1 out of 10 to the 8th. Now, that's not good. And so there's gene repair and all, and you try to repair the boo-boos, and you hope it's not so gross, and you hope you don't mutate a very important point. But that's the rate of genetic mutations that occur spontaneously. I propose, and I think it's been confirmed in the last 20 years, that when something is stressed, when a gene is stressed, then you make more mutants more often, not 1 out of 10 to the 8th, 1 out of 10 to the 4th. You make mutations. Oh, that's interesting. So what are you trying to say? Well, give me some ideas of stress. Look, heat. You get a bunch of germs, you heat them. Some die. Some don't even get affected by the heat. They're in the cold part, but some get stressed. And I claim that when they're stressed, they come back mutated more than 1 times 10 to the 8th. We actually wrote a paper based on malaria. It showed that the kind of mutations you cause by stressing was so much more. It's like stressing as a mutant factory. I will give you one example of mutants. Here it is. This is called atomic gardens. In the 50s, after we bombed people, the guys who invented the atomic bomb had to say something useful. So they put the radiation source here. And it was highly radioactive, and they covered it. Then they invited the public all across the US to plant all kinds of crops around it. And lo and behold, they come back once a week, they cover it, shield it, so the families wouldn't get affected. And you work on your garden, you check it, you grow things, and you harvest the seeds. And after the summer, you got some mutant plants and you got mutant seeds. And you wanted to know if the seeds could grow more plants. Most of the mutations were lethal, but everybody did this. And you did this using radiation as the stress. You see, here's a woman coming to the atomic garden, smiling, looking at weird flowers. Here's the idea. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Here is the mutant garden. Here is the radiation source. Here is it radiating. If you are far from the source, you got normal flowers, sunflowers. If you were too close, man, that fried everything. And in between were all the mutants. Very common to make mutants, 1 out of 10 to the -4. Look at all the mutant sunflowers. Now that's interesting and weird and laughable, but I claim for every mutation you see, that's just a marker for something intrinsic to the plant. It could be drought resistant. Maybe when you see this, it's drought resistant. Maybe this is cold resistant. Maybe this is herbicide resistant. Maybe this is light resistant. So what they're telling you is when mutants form, no matter what you see, the mutations are shotgun. You generate a shotgun of mutations. And if you have a cold snap, this one survives. If you have pesticides, this one survives. You're making a library of mutants, and this is shotgun mutation. Now, this has been proven for all forms of stress, including antibiotics, in all kinds of microbes. Okay? Next slide, please. I will claim, what is stress? Technically, stress is a sublethal dose. Some died, just like the ones too near the radiation. Some weren't even affected. They were too far from the radiation. But of those who were affected, they survived. And when they survived, they came back with a highly mutant library. I claim that against COVID virus, that these people living in the stress zone is what I call the fringe. You're not doing it well. You're just doing it half-ass. People said, don't say ass, but you're doing it poorly. And the ones that survive come back hypermutated. Here it is. I think Sarah, somebody brought this up. Hey, look, you're supposed to mask when you're indoors. They're kind of half indoors, half outdoors. So this is where your mutations will occur. But it's shotgun. Mutations which occur here that survive this partly mask, partly indoor, partly outdoor, partly sun, partly humidity, they will come back mutant to all vaccines. They will be. Here's a guy not masking. Here's me not masking. Well, you told me if I can drink coffee and eat for maybe an hour, I don't have to mask, even indoors. This is where your mutants form. And it's not mutants against distance or masking or humidity. It's shotgun mutation. Here's a guy screaming, and he doesn't want his second dose. Okay, so this is the guy who gets 1 dose, low antibody. Low antibody is sublethal dose. We saw that, right? When you tested against COVID, normal COVID, and now Delta, the guys who got 1 shot, holy cow, they really weren't protected. Against normal COVID, 1 shot protected you 50%. Against mild. Against 1 shot, Delta dropped it 20-fold or 25-fold. So against lousy sublethal antibody, you are generating mutants. Here's guys, this is for the anti-vax group who said, well, why don't we just take chloroquine? Why don't we just take ivermectin, man? That's all or none. That's not all or none. Okay, we know from malaria, the dose you want to give is once a day. What, you think guys are going to skip some days because, I don't know, it made ringing in their ears or something, or they're saving it because they had to pay. And I'm only going to use it when Delta is really bad. You take subtherapeutic doses. This is standard. This is standard. Subtherapeutic doses of antibiotics generates resistance, no question, to that antibiotic, and I claim to any other stress that you about, to drought, humidity, sunlight, Clorox, whatever. So this is the theory. I think it's been proven widely now in the last 20 years. When I proposed this based on malaria, it was rejected by Nature because my argument was flimsy. Okay, so all the time they show this, I sit back and I'm not a mean person, but I said, this is what many people said this, and we've proven it again and again with all kinds of microbes. Now you're proving it for us with COVID. But unlike the Austrians who say, no, let it break through. Let it break through the vaccines. We'll whop it with the masking and mitigation. You're not whopping it with nothing. Oh, if we could just scroll down a little bit, Cara, this curve. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this picture. Well, okay, well, you can't quite see it, but in the normal, you do. This is your antibody protection after a double dose vaccine. This one, oh, after a double dose vaccine, you naturally wane. Can't help it. It is this zone. After the first shot, you're susceptible. You're giving out sublethal dose. After the second shot, maybe 4 months, you got sublethal dose. You can't help it. That's the nature of the vaccine. And by God, if you haven't eradicated COVID by then, you will generate vaccine-resistant COVID. Okay? So that's just the nature of the beast. Try the final slide. The final slide's not so essential, but if you're going to use interventions together, vaccine, boxing and COVID, and mitigation, or you're going to use it in sequence, do whatever you want, but do one well. Eradicate it, use it definitively. Otherwise, try to minimize the fringe time. Like those guys who got one shot. Oh, well, here's a fringe time. My vaccine, my full dose, February. Oh, it's kind of long ago, Pang. Yep. Well, since your vaccine is not boosted yet, can you avoid those high contact areas? You know, because you might pull out the one that's super resistant to antibody. Yeah, that's a fair thing. Yeah. Okay, maybe I will. In fact, my wife and I, we said, wait a minute, isn't that punishing us? We were the first to get vaccinated, and now you're telling me we're dropping our levels first? Yeah. So can you kind of avoid getting infected? Okay, fine. And then all these other things.
Yeah.
You know?
Our teachers were some of the first people to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And they have to go
so
to
make sure they mask, and they're going to be the first ones to get boosted. How do you know when to bring out the booster? When you watch the efficacy drop. The efficacy of what? Severe Delta, mild Delta, or transmission Delta? Good question. For sure, if it's the efficacy of severe Delta, they'll be the first ones boosted, and they'll be the first ones to hypermask and distance. Hey, maybe we should just shut down the school. Okay. How about mild? The teachers, they got vaccinated long ago. Yeah. We no more booster yet, but they're beginning to get mildly sick. Oh, what shall we do? Shall we go to distance learning? Shall we bring on the mitigation? Huh. But you see, it's not so easy to answer, but at least I give you the framework. Mild, severe and dead, mild, or asymptomatic transmitter. Yeah. Vaccine, old vaccine, new vaccine. Oh, by the way, Johnson & Johnson, I don't even consider that anymore. That was right off the bat recently, not controlling mild. I only really talk about Pfizer and Moderna. Furthermore, when they bring out the Pfizer booster, what, you're going to boost a Johnson & Johnson with a Pfizer booster? I don't know. So we live in a very precarious time now. Oh, anyway, thank you, Lee. I'm glad to know that the drop in England, because they shut the schools. But
Yeah.
maybe they should have shut the school earlier so we wouldn't have to be so high to begin with.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would like to know, this is Sarah, a lot of people would like to know, what can we do in the face of this information? Because it doesn't seem like our state elected officials are responding to this at all.
Yeah. Okay, right off the bat, I think I said it on the mayor's news thing yesterday. I don't want to die with a hypertensive crisis. I don't even have COVID. What if I don't get COVID? I don't want to die because I get, I don't know, urinary tract infection or something, because there's no room for me in the hospital because you're taking care of all those other guys, okay? So everybody get vaccinated, because if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to get sick, you're going to get infected, you're going to get long-term COVID, and you're going to plug up the hospital. So everybody for non-COVID related is going to suffer. I'm sorry, but get vaccinated. I can no longer make the argument for long COVID for the kids. I can no longer make the argument that, oh, we got to reach herd immunity because that's when there's no transmission. That's theoretical. That's gone now, not with the Delta and not with these vaccines.
So the mayor said yesterday that he had consulted with you, and
yes,
we've talked a lot about mitigation today.
Yes.
But we're not looking at increasing the mitigation that's already in place, yet we're seeing a significant increase in cases. So
yes.
What do we
Why
do?
don't we mitigate? Okay, I would like to mitigate a bit more, but I'd be happy just not to open the schools. I mean, that's like reverse of mitigation, right? That's like whoop it up.
Is that a possibility?
Okay. I don't know. They claim the schools are so important. We can't stunt our kids' growth, you know, academic growth. How about 3 weeks? Can you give me 3 weeks? Because that's when we know this thing peaks or not. But you know, today, the rise in Maui, well, I don't know what it was. But yeah, I know the numbers. Okay, I can tell you the numbers tomorrow.
42 cases in Maui today.
Okay, tomorrow it's going to be like 60 something, 70.
Yeah, and our positivity rate, test positivity rate, 7 days.
Yeah, that too. Okay. 5. Okay. I think he's more than happy to control this mitigation if it rises a bit more. He knows we hope to keep it under 250 a day. But I think when we peak 100, he's going to say, okay, guys, we got to do this, this, and this. But why in the world would I mitigate if you keep the schools open, if that's the driving engine? But then some people said, why would you mitigate when the tourists are coming here breathing on us anyway?
Well,
good question, right?
And it's travelers. You know, there are a lot of people who are coming from here to the mainland and then coming back and choosing to quarantine, but they're not. We know that.
Yes, but then we kind of told the travelers, go ahead and travel. We'll get up if you're vaccinated. That does not hold true anymore.
I know.
Because not against the Delta, right? So we're kind of, but you said we could. That was without the Delta, okay? That was without the Delta. But everybody continue to get vaccinated so we don't die and plug up the hospital. Right now, remember the fallback position was protect the hospital, flatten the curve, so we can at least have a hospital. Yeah. So that is what we're scrambling.
So Maui is stuck at 54%, essentially fully vaccinated. And we've been there for about a month.
Okay.
More.
It's not so bad. The first vaccinations are picking up. Okay. The fully vaccinated, we're kind of stuck, okay? The first vaccinations are picking up. Now, Kauai is quite a bit ahead, but they're not picking up a lot of first vaccinations. So every time we scream, it's not just conning people, but don't plug up the hospital. Get vaccinated so you don't die. But you promised me no long COVID. You promised me travel, whatever. Sorry, this Delta. Oh, and by the way, do it now because you ain't seen nothing yet. When you see Delta Plus or Lambda, these will look like the good old days.
Yeah, I noticed the cluster report is pretty old, and we're hearing rumors there's clusters at several places like the hospital, the jail. We're hearing Family Life Center. I mean, how many clusters do we actively have right now in Maui County?
Well, okay. I think we have, let's say, a cluster of more than 3 people related to that place, though. You know, I mean, if you say, oh, look at all the guys in the hospital, because you're testing the hospital guys. You know, they didn't get it from the hospital. I think, really, we got like 7 or 8 because it's so transmissible, okay? But worse than that, you got the salt and pepper guys. Well, here's a family, there's a family, there's a family. I don't know, okay? But what we can do, I mean, remember way back when we said, can you do the bad things 1/3 as often and the good things 3 times as often? Get outdoors. Just get outdoors. If you have to socialize, can you just, even if I talk to you, Cara, at least if you're going to be 6 feet, can you do it outdoors? Okay, if you're going to be so hard-headed, not wear a mask, if you're going to sip your coffee with you and Cara sipping coffee, took off your mask, can you do it outdoors?
And that
so guy from...
yeah, that leads me to schools because as of right this moment, right, they're going to open in 3 days. And so a lot of them are planning to eat indoors, you know, so they have the kids mask all day, ideally, but then they're going to have lunch. Are you worried about that becoming a super spreader event? Like, I mean, should they be eating outdoors?
Yes. I don't like things indoors. If you have to indoors wear a mask, you say, no, I got to eat. Well, then can you guys eat outdoors? Even if you say, oh, but we don't have a separate spot for each one outdoors. Fine. If you're going to eat, which would you rather? Eat together indoors or eat together outdoors? Outdoors. But of course, if you can space it, space it. Okay. But your real question is, should we eat together indoors but spaced or outdoors kind of grouped? Well, now I have to see. I have to look at this. But when we have outbreaks, and I said, no matter what you did, it's breaking through. But you promised us if we did, no. That's like, nope. I told you don't drive 50 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour zone. And I found out that 30 miles an hour is not good too. The end. And, you know, I'm not going to be apologetic. That was normal COVID. And what we said was pretty good. We eradicated normal COVID.
Do you think as getting more people vaccinated, has the Department of Health, I know in Kauai, they have this mobile outreach they're trying to do to get more people vaccinated. They're going to certain sub-communities and trying to reach out. Are there any churches who are willing to host like a vaccine clinic on a Sunday service time or anything like that?
Cara, we've had many. There was one church they said there'd be 100 people coming. We went and there were 6. And it turns out that it was a group church. All the churches were sending. Some of the pastors were speaking against vaccine. I mean, they want to use it to prove that it's church against state. This is not the time to do that. We have quite a few outreach now with our partners to schools and all, okay? But it is picking up. At least first shots are picking up. Unfortunately for the youth, we only have Pfizer first shot, okay?
And only 12, right?
Yes. And I don't know when they're going to do it lower, but you dare not just whoop it up and give it to the youth because they're not really going to die. It's not going to prevent long COVID maybe, and it's certainly not preventing transmission. So what are they getting it for? Altruistic reasons, so they can not give it to grandma. So you better be very careful about side effects before you use it like that.
So we have a question from somebody who asks about the really large groups that are coming into the resorts that have been permitted to do this by our elected official, like 2,000 people scheduled. Coming
2,000 people? You mean conventions?
Correct.
Events.
Conferences and luau's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it depends what they do once they get here. Okay. But you do realize they're all sitting together on the plane. Even if they're vaccinated, they're transmitting on the plane, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, Friday's report changes everything. Okay. So they sat together on the plane. They come here. Luau is not so bad. It's outdoors. Okay. Basketball, indoor, you know, it's like, I wish they could play basketball outdoors. You know, I don't like indoor settings. And I don't like it in Hawaii because it could have been outdoors year round. Okay. So, but Friday's report, it really was an eye-opening thing.
Yeah.
About what the vaccine does against mild and asymptomatic. Once again, don't forget, I didn't fully calculate efficacy. You guys can do it by hand because you need to know the other B and D. Okay, so but I really don't think it's going to be stupendous here. But it is a chance because had the Massachusetts group been hyper-vaccinated, 97, 98%, that would mean it's still very efficacious. Do you think the Massachusetts group was hyper-vaccinated? Massachusetts itself is not hyper-vaccinated, but the groups coming into those events, when they said, show your card, maybe it was hyper-vaccinated. Okay.
So for mitigation, for us to hopefully flatten the curve, we need to
Yes.
make sure we're vaccinated, right? We need to try to only do things outdoors if possible, which with
Yes.
schools, it's going to largely not be possible, but maybe a priority should be given and money towards trying to build outdoor areas for schools so that they can eat outdoors and spread out, you know?
Yeah. Look, when I went to school, okay, we didn't have air conditioning. We opened the windows and doors. Okay. Now, gee, can we do this for 1 month? All right, it's summer, okay, but come on. I went to school so long. It was hot, and that makes you open windows and doors. That's almost self-correcting. The hotter it is, the more ventilation you get. And in Hawaii, you're idiots if you don't do this.
Yeah. But it's,
so,
not being done.
If you turn down to air conditioned temperatures and humidity, it was shown with normal COVID, and I'll bet you with Delta, because it's 1,000 times more, it prolongs the survival of the COVID virus to days at lower temperatures and humidity. So turn off the air conditioning. Oh, it's hot. Open the ventilation. You know, I don't know, you know.
Well, I know a lot of schools still don't have even shaded areas outdoors, large shaded areas. Like Haiku School, when my kids went there, they have a huge outdoor shaded, I don't know what you'd call it, you know, metal thing structure. And they'd have the kids go spend time out there, and they had a big shade tree, like a big monkey pod tree out there. And so at that school, I could say, it would be easy to have your kids eat outdoors, and the cafeteria is a hybrid situation with half of it being basically completely outdoors with the roll-up windows and doors. But on the newer schools, they don't have that. Like when my son went to a newer school in Kihei, they didn't have shaded outdoor areas. So I don't know where they would have the kids eat outside. So for schools, I mean, if they're going to open, they should try to eat outside. They should start building outdoor shaded eating areas, I would think.
And classrooms.
And Representative Wildberger is really saying, you know, how about large tents or, you know, hollies outside?
That's good. And, you know, this is not forever. Well, maybe it is, unless we keep having COVID. But whatever it is, my job is to watch. And if I say, oh, look, you guys got 5 outbreaks here you can't control, we're going to shut down. And if Kari says, oh, those were the ones who were the newer schools who couldn't, well, so be it. You know? You know what I mean? Rather than say, well, I think this is going to happen. All I have to do is watch it. It did happen. So, you know, can you not turn on the air conditioner and have an enclosed thing?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you got to pitch a tent, pitch a tent.
What do we do about some of those schools that don't have windows that even open, or they're, you know?
You can either have a leap of faith and say pitch a tent, or you can say, oh, look, COVID, shut that down.
May I say something about tents?
What?
Just to say something about tents. It's becoming very clear that any enclosure that isn't open on all 4 sides is problematic. So what you need is just a top, you know, a sunscreen.
Yes. But you can actually argue against a half-assed tent. Just what I told you about it. It's neither here nor there, and that's where resistant COVID develops. You are right. Okay, but I don't quite know the level of I shouldn't say half-assed, but halfway. I don't know quite halfway. What does that mean? I mean, I know it's horrible to the kids if they're in an enclosed room, but did that generate resistance? No, but it's horrible to the kids. Okay, you know what I'm saying, right? So in other words, you know the sunflowers that died of the radiation? That was horrible to the sunflowers, but it did not generate mutants.
But spread transmission generates mutants.
Yes.
So if you increase transmission by being in an enclosed space.
It's stress, that's correct. It's stress that generates mutations. Stress, by definition, to the evolution guys, is sublethal dose.
So I just wanted to try to clarify that putting up a tent that's enclosed is not going to be of significant benefit.
I think it will be. It depends on your ventilation, and the proof of the pudding is who's getting the outbreaks. If you say, hey, look, the guy did a 3-sided tent, well, I guess you're right then. But if you say, oh, the guy did a 3-sided tent and it wasn't an outbreak, okay, I guess that's good enough. We really don't know.
But if
right, and Susan also, I mean, they're talking about just the roof, the top, not the sides.
Yeah.
Right.
But listen, with the ventilation, with the trade winds of Hawaii, I mean, trust me, if you went to Guam, you go to the same latitude without the trade winds. Oh God, it's horrible. I can't. That's a whole difference of Hawaii, the trade winds. Okay. Now, if one day you said, "Wow, there's no trade winds," well, I guess no school today. I mean, if you're that serious about it.
Or you roll up the sides of the tent.
Yeah.
What?
You could roll up the sides of the tent, but I don't know why they need to be closed anyway.
Yeah, they don't need to have sides.
No, that's the
true.
point.
Yeah, I mean, if people get rained on, I mean, it's water. I'd rather have water than.
I think it's very optimistic to hope that schools will put up tents because we asked them to all last year and they didn't, but we can hope that they would take that good advice. So I have several parents who've been private messaging me if they should put their kids into distance learning. And so I know parents are really struggling with the decision this year, especially parents who need to go to work and pay their bills. And so are there certain kids that you would say, if that was my kid, I would definitely do distance learning this year?
Okay, it is the kids who the vaccine did not take well, and they might have trouble if they get infected. So the immunocompromised kids, okay, actually it didn't take well, or the kids who are most severe are kind of like the obese kids, immunocompromised. I think there's a list, yeah. If they had a kidney problem, kids, they don't make antibody or they pee out antibody too quickly. So there's a list of medically fragile kids. They kind of should go distance learning, at least hold back until you see what's stabilized. Next question, please. I got to get run soon in about 10 minutes. So,
well, how about asthma? There's a lot of kids with asthma, diabetes here,
I'm not sure. Surprisingly, asthma wasn't so bad as the kidney failure kids, immunocompromised kids. You got to look this up, okay, on the asthma.
What about with Delta, though? Because that was with old COVID.
Yes, well, that's true. What you kind of have to look this up, Delta and asthma, or Delta and medically frail. Just say, what is medically frail with Delta now? Okay.
I guess my question is looking to the future. It sounds like we are in a worse condition than before because everyone was so excited, me included, about being post-COVID, right? And so all of a sudden now we have no more contact tracers, not no more, but a lot less. And then our cluster reports are down to every 2 weeks instead of every week. It sounds like everyone was just ready to move on, but we've got a situation that is worse than it's ever been. So yep. Where is our future? And I'm also asking about, really, I want to be partying 3 weeks from now, saying this is over.
Nope. It's the variant. Hey, we are post-COVID. We entered Delta. Okay, if you want to give it another name, it makes you feel good, give it another name. And there's many variants out there. Okay. There's also a thought that, well, we know, Dr. Peng, because germs that transmit easily aren't lethal because it would kill all the people who transmit. No. That's in the long-term steady stage. In general, when germs settle down, in order to transmit, it can't kill the host. But in the short term, wow, somebody's inadvertently killed the host. When they first are new, They kill the host with high severity. And then they settle down. But by then we have another variant, which is unstable, don't we? Yeah. Okay. So, forget that argument. When you keep generating variants, why do we keep generating variants? Because we have these long periods of half-attempted measures. It's stressing the virus with sublethal dose. There is some hope, trust me, but we don't want to talk about it now. And it has nothing to do with humans. Why did Zika, which was running all over the world, why did it disappear? Think about it, right?
So you do have hope. That's good. You won't tell us
why. I do have hope, but it surely doesn't depend on humans.
Okay. And then as far as my last question, then we'll wrap this up, is should we be doing more to prevent it from coming in? Like, do we need to reinstitute safe travels or resort bubbles, or is there any talk of that happening at all?
Okay, we are, I don't know if Kara, but the paper we put in MedArch has been picked up by an international group and all for rapid dissemination. And instead of saying, let's watch COVID as it comes in, before it comes in, we change it to let's watch variants before they come in. And we kind of said it's a little too late for the Delta, it's here. So if you pick them up on departure, you don't know where they got it. But you know how many variants are out there and haven't come in yet? Just routinely do this so you can monitor the traffic of the variants before they come here. Right? But if you're just going to say, oh, don't worry, tourists don't bring in anything. Not only do tourists bring in things, but the vaccinated tourists bring in things now, right?
Yep.
The breakthroughs, right? Okay. And it's one thing to say that, oh, the vaccine's still good. Yes. If it wasn't for the vaccine, 97% of our tourists will be bringing in variant X. But because of the vaccine, only 5%. 5% bringing in variant X with 10,000 visitors a day, that's plenty.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to pick it off when it's low, especially before it explodes on island.
Okay. So basically there's no plans of that because there's no point in it.
No, there are plans. The rest of the world is looking at this way to monitor quickly. Now, whether Hawaii does it, I don't know. Yeah. But usually when the world does it, Hawaii follows and they say, oh, by the way, wasn't that developed in Maui? Oh, yeah, wow. Sad to say, but people here say stuff, they don't listen until it comes back around from the UK. Well, they did it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today, but I did want to announce we are having a town hall, hosting a second town hall to follow up with the first one with PAC. So we had PAC on our last one, and their website's pac.info. They had a lot of great stuff about safe mitigation for schools. Schools are opening on Tuesday and Wednesday, and unless something big happens in the next 2 days. And so they're going to be in full face-to-face learning. We're going to have an August 7th town hall. And Dana, do you want to tell us what time it's going to be and tell us about Teachers Month very quickly because we're way over our time?
Yeah, thanks, Kara. So the town hall is going to be with experts. We're hoping to get this expert we heard about, Dr. Lauren Pang, on our town hall next Saturday at 2:30. And maybe a couple others. We'll put it back out there to Dr. Miskovich and maybe a few others along with PAC. What we want to hear about is we want feedback from teachers if they do open schools to please come. August, it's Teachers Month on highcovid.org. The link to our Zoom calls will be right on our website. It's going to be 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday in August. We're devoting this to teachers and parents and community, and you can come into a safe zone and share concerns. If you're worried about being on our calls, you don't have to turn on your screen. You don't have to list your name, but you can be there and hear good information and ask questions. And then we also would love to hear back from teachers before our town hall. So this upcoming Wednesday, we'll be there to meet with you. And yeah, we'll see you on the town hall live.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, if you go to hicovid.org, it's hicovid.org, which is where Dana is, telling us about the meetings. Those Zoom meetings are not recorded or broadcast. So that is a safer place to discuss things that you feel like you should not discuss in public, maybe. Or if you want to talk about, things you're seeing that you're worried about, but you don't feel comfortable talking about them in a recorded or public space. So that's it for us. I'm going to go ahead and end the live video. And then I know Dana wanted to talk to Dr. Payne a little bit.
No, I gotta go. Text me, Dana. Text me.
Okay.
And
Thank you so much, Dr. Payne.
Thank you so
much. Good luck.
You.
We live in a tough time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
He's gone.
All right.
Oh, he's such a good speaker.
Yeah. Sorry, Dana.
Are you off broadcasted?
Yes, I stopped the broadcast.
Oh man,
Yeah.
if you should, it's because you